Bryce Miller got punched in the mouth for the first time in his career as Aaron Judge did Aaron Judge things. We'll talk about last night's defeat and then introduce a new segment we're excited to get started here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. Colby, hit it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Ahoy, sailors. It is Tuesday, May 30th, 2023. This is Trident as Allison Colby Patnode for the Locked On Mariners podcast, brought to you by Bird Dogs. Go to birddogs.com/LockedOnMLB, and when you enter promo code LockedOnMLB, they'll throw in a free custom Bird Dogs Yeti-style tumbler with every order. Thank you so much for making us your first listen. Subscribe, like, and turn on alerts if you're watching on YouTube, or subscribe and leave a 5-star review on your preferred podcast platform if you like what you hear. And if you're part of the crew and rock with us every single day, let us know in the comments below. And if you want to hear from us even more, please consider signing up for our Patreon. The link, as well as our social accounts, is in the description of this episode. And on this episode, we're excited to start our Trade-A-Day series, where we pick a player from around the league and determine if the Mariners should trade for them, what we think it would cost, and more. But before that, let's talk about last night's game. Mariners unfortunately fall 10-4 to the New York Yankees. Bryce Miller on the hook for 8 earned runs in this one. By far his worst start of his young major league career. Before we get into the specifics of Miller's issues, Colby, you were there at the ballpark watching in utter disgust. What frustrated you the most about last night?
The fact that Bryce Miller didn't have it and everybody in the entire ballpark knew he didn't have it, and yet somehow you enter the top of the 5th inning with a chance to win this game against the Yankees, the first game of the series, which is always an important one. And not only does, Scott send him back out there, he kind of lets him twist in the wind and keeps him out there for well beyond what was even reasonable. And the thing that is the most annoying of it all is that you literally have a player on your roster whose sole purpose, his only value to you, is to eat innings when your starter doesn't have it. And you didn't use him. In fact, you didn't use him until the 8th when the game was out of hand. Now, you can't justify Chris Flexen's roster spot if you're not going to use him in that situation. You cannot do it. Because that is the sole reason you've said repeatedly you like having a long guy in the pen for situations just like that. And you didn't use him. And you left your rookie pitcher out to dry when he clearly didn't have his best stuff, when he clearly was, struggling with just about everything. And you have this guy. And the only thing I could think of at the time was like, well, there's kind of that weird thing where they have Luis Castillo scheduled to pitch on short rest. I don't think that's going to happen. Not in, the end of May. So maybe they need Flexen for an emergency spot start. Maybe they want to push Kirby back a day or something like that. Nope. Because if they wanted to do that, they wouldn't use Flexen in this game. It doesn't make sense. There's absolutely no reason to hang your rookie out to dry like that. He didn't have it, and you had a shot to win this game. Go to Flexen. You're down 4-2. Odds of you winning the game, still not great, but still winnable. And you go to Flexen. If Flexen blows it, oh well. Then Flexen's out there for the next 4 or 5 innings. You're not going to use him for the next few days anyways, and then you DFA him on June 1st or whatever the heck they're waiting for. But nope, we're just going to let Bryce stay out there and get crushed, watch him throw a ton of 3-ball counts, watch him just fight every single bit of his mechanics to try and get guys out. And we're just going to let him twist in the wind because I can't afford to use Chris Flexen when I have Logan Gilbert going today. Pretty safe bet to go 6 innings. I don't get it. I don't get it. So basically, you waste Juan 10 in a game you can't win. We'll probably see a roster move there today. I can't imagine that he's going to be available after 2 innings, and there's no reason to have 2 guys in your bullpen that you're not willing to use, like Chris Flexen. This is why you have Chris Flexen. This is why you've refused to DFA him, for this specific reason. And you didn't use it. Scott continues to be awful, absolutely awful at the improv game. If things don't go according to plan, Scott absolutely refuses to go off page until it's too late. You won't go off script until you've already lost the game. That doesn't help anybody. You had a chance to win this game. It was still a winnable game. And you didn't use the one guy who's literally Like his only purpose on this ball club right now is to do what he needed to do there, and he wouldn't do it. You sacrifice the game. You sacrifice the game to get what? An extra out of Bryce Miller, an extra 2 outs out of Bryce Miller. Good job, Scott. Good job. You played a stupid game. You won stupid prizes. Congratulations. You probably just lost this series because you didn't even give your guys a shot to win last night because you kept running Bryce Miller out there when it was clear. Dude didn't have it. He didn't have it. He wasn't comfortable yesterday. That was painfully obvious, even from my seats in the 300 level. Didn't have it. Was not going to get better. The first 4 innings proved that definitively. He was getting worked by Willie Calhoun and Jake Bowers. Hashtag Bowers Rangers. And your idea is like, oh, no, yeah, we'll just let him face the top of the order again. What could go wrong? There you go. That's what could go wrong. You blew it, Scott. You absolutely blew it because you have a guy. I get it. You used a lot of guys the day before in the extra inning games. Bullpen's probably a little thin. That's why you have Chris Flexen to go out there and eat 3 or 4 innings. And if you're not going to use him in that situation, then get his bum butt off of this team. He doesn't belong on this team. He doesn't. You have Prolander Barreau just sitting down there throwing darts in the minors. You're not using him. Matt Fessa's been a lot better. Fessa can go 2 innings if that's all you're looking for. What are we doing? Flexen doesn't deserve to be on this team if you're not going to use him in the one situation you quite literally have said is the reason he's sticking around. You blew it. You sacrificed the chance to win because you didn't want to go off script too early. That's on you, Scott. And to make matters worse, you left your rookie pitcher out there to hang. You left him out there to dry. You left him out there to get battered and beaten and straight up bullied by the Yankees on a day where he just didn't have a punch. You made him look awful because you refused to use the veteran who you're going to DFA in 3 days anyways. You refuse to let him be the punching bag. So now the rookie has to wear it for you. Awful. Just awful.
I appreciate your attempt to censor yourself during that rant, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Good rant.
You're
Solid
welcome.
rant. What would you guys give it down in the comments below on the 20 to 80 grade scale relative to other Colby rants?
Yeah, now imagine it was yesterday, like after the 5th inning.
Yeah. I'm sure the 12 or so hours that you've had to stew on that have, I don't know, maybe diminished your anger a little bit on that front. But
well,
still,
I'm
good.
a big picture guy.
Sure.
Come back today, win the game today. Everything's good.
Sure. There you go. Flexen, like you mentioned, he ended up getting into this game, but after this one was over and done with, he goes the final 2 innings of this one, gives up an earned run, walks 2, strikes out 2. Bryce Miller, 4 2/3 innings pitched, 8 earned runs on 11 hits, 12 hard hit balls, just 3 strikeouts, no walks, 2 home runs, both of those being his first and second home runs allowed in his major league career. This was a fairly off-speed heavy approach from Miller relative to what we've seen from him in past starts. Still, 50 fastballs out of his 86 pitches, but we saw 11 sliders, 10 sweepers, 8 changeups. They actually have that called a sweeper now on Baseball Savant, by the way. 8 changeups and then 7 curveballs. I don't know how they're determining all of this, so whatever. Because Miller says that he has 3 sliders. I don't know which one is which, really. I don't know what Baseball Savant is considering, what to be what, but those are the numbers on that. And, we saw what the game plan was against Judge pretty clearly. It was off speed away. He tried to sneak 1 fastball by him on the outside third of the plate, couldn't get the call. And then his next fastball that he threw him in that second at bat, Judge obliterated to Edgar's Cantina, 117 miles per hour off the bat. Really, what the issue was here, fastball command for Miller just wasn't there. He just didn't have it. He was missing his spot pretty significantly. Try to get the counts on that. I don't have that right in front of me, but I'll try to get that in a second. But overall, yeah, Miller's game plan to the execution just completely off in this one. So you've looked at the numbers now. What do you think? What went wrong for Miller last night?
I think it was a terrible game plan before the first pitch was even thrown, and then it was just an even worse execution. Because you look at the home run that he gave up to Judge, right? Like Cal is set up off the plate, and that fastball is middle, like That is obviously not where you want to leave a pitch to anybody, let alone Aaron Judge. So I think, it was just didn't really have it. I saw quite a few 92s on the radar gun from Miller, which is kind of a red flag. It kind of shows that he just did not have his stuff. He just did not have his control, his command, his mechanics were out of whack. Now we did see 98, so I don't think it's a huge concern, but we did see a lot. I saw quite a few 92s on the stadium gun, and that was kind of a red flag for me because Miller typically 94 to 96. But yeah, he clearly didn't have it. We saw him miss spots by, 6 inches, not an inch here and there. It was 6, 7, 8 inches, sometimes a foot. So he just didn't really have any command of his stuff, which obviously isn't great. Then you kind of factor that in with the plan to not use your best pitch as much as you possibly can. I think it was just a flawed strategy, and I think it was poorly executed. It was a poorly executed, poor game plan. Now, I don't have all the numbers that the Mariners do. I don't have all the data they do, but I do know something. At the end of the day, like, you have to do what you're good at. To a certain extent, you have to do what you're best at. And what Bryce Miller is best at is fastball heavy. 70, 80% fastballs. Last night he was around 55, I think was the account, 56%. It's not enough, not nearly enough. You need to be at least 65, at least. It's just too many breaking balls. You're the breaking stuff, the off-speed stuff, it's not good enough to just throw that. And then the fastball is complementary. It has to be a fastball-led game plan, and I just didn't feel like last night's was. So, and I don't feel like the Yankees did anything to force Miller to change his game plan. He just kind of did it, and I think that was a mistake. So, poor game plan, probably even worse execution, and it all adds up to getting knocked around the park.
Right. I finally got game data load here. So 58 strikes on the 86 pitches. I don't have the specifics on each pitch on that front, but still just command not where you needed it to be. And that home run specifically to Judge, fastball right down the middle of the plate. Can't leave that there to anyone, especially Aaron Judge, who had 2 home runs on the night, also robbed one from Teoscar Hernandez. He is annoyingly good. I think that's the best way to describe Aaron Judge. If you're not a Yankees fan, it's annoying. It's utterly irritating how good Aaron Judge is at baseball. It's ridiculous stuff. And unfortunately, the Mariners get burned by him. Hopefully the game plan and the execution against him tonight and tomorrow is a lot better, because that's really the only way you're going to be able to beat this Yankees team, if you can snuff out Judge. And also, hey, maybe not allow 2 hitters that entered the game last night with a WRC plus of 95 and 70 respectively to go a combined 5 for 9 with 5 extra base hits. Maybe don't do that either.
Yeah, 2 of Colby's guys come out and torch the Yankees. How about that?
Are you a Willie Calhoun guy?
Yep, sure am.
That feels like revisionist history.
It's not, though.
All right, let's talk about a guy that you and I both really like and have wanted on the Mariners for the last couple of years, Andrew McCutchen. He's going to be the target of our first trade-a-day segment here that we're going to be doing over the next couple of months leading up to the trade deadline. We'll be talking about that in just a moment. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you, I almost said post-game show. It's brought to you by FanDuel. Grand slams, no-hitters, and double plays are back, and there's no better place to get in on the MLB action than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Then you can bet on everything from who goes home with a win to the result of the very first pitch. Plus, FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with a same-game parlay. So don't miss your chance to get your no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/LOCKEDON to learn more. FanDuel, an official partner of Major League Baseball. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. Thank you again for making us your first listen. Tonight, Yankees, Mariners, 6:40 p.m. first pitch. You can catch all the action on the Mariners hometown broadcast with SiriusXM via the SXM app. So, Colby, back when you and I wrote over on a little website called sotomojo.com, we did a series starting roughly around this time of year called Trade a Day. And we would do that all the way up to the trade deadline, proposing mock trades for the Mariners and seeing, what it would cost to acquire certain guys. It was a fun exercise, and now we're going to bring it here to Locked On M. So the first target for us, I think, is a perfect target. Andrew McCutchen, someone that you and I have wanted to see in a Mariners uniform for the last couple of years. We just recently saw him at T-Mobile Park this weekend, and he's having a pretty good year. Basically going to be a full-time DH if he were to be acquired by the Mariners. He has played right field like 7 times, but really all he can do out there is just kind of stand out there at this point in his career. But the bat still playing up quite a bit, 117 WRC plus as we speak. So let me ask you this. First of all, what do you think it would cost to acquire McCutchen?
That's a complicated question because as we sit right now, the Pirates are not yet eliminated or anywhere near eliminated from the playoff conversation. The NL Central is kind of bad right now. It's both Central divisions are pretty bad right now, but and also Andrew McCutchen is a legend of the Pittsburgh Pirates, and he's already expressed interest in signing an extension, and obviously he's having a great time right now. And Pittsburgh is a young team, so his veteran leadership, blah, 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 is going to carry a lot of value. So how much is, a half a year of that worth to Pittsburgh? Probably enough that it's going to jack up the price. And if you're the Mariners, you don't want to overpay for anybody, but especially not a 35-year-old outfielder who's really just a DH. The similarities between McCutchen and AJ Pollock, are pretty much dead on. Pollock's actually still a capable defender even. So the only real difference is right now is McCutchen is producing at the plate and Pollock is not. So obviously all the issues that stood with the AJ Pollock acquisition, his age, how often can you play him, how long is he going to hold up, those all apply to McCutchen. And when you kind of combine all of those reasons with all of Pittsburgh's non-baseball reasons, I don't know if there's going to be a match here, just because I don't know if the Mariners aren't going to value Andrew McCutchen for his, clubhouse stuff like the Pirates are. So the Pirates probably look at this and say, look, all these factors for us to like sell this to our fan base that we traded Andrew McCutchen again, we're going to want something that makes it worth it, and probably want something that's close to Major League ready. So I wouldn't be shocked at all if they came to you and were like, okay, give us Brian Wu. And of course the Mariners aren't going to do that. Of course they're not. Mm-hmm. But if you're Pittsburgh, why would you trade Andrew McCutchen for, Zach DeLoach and Ashton Izzy? Like, DeLoach is a 4th, 5th outfielder at best, and Izzy is 4 or 5 years away from the big league. So what's the purpose there? And if you're the Mariners, you're not trading anything off your big league roster for Andrew McCutchen, right? I mean, like, obviously, you trade Chris Flexen for him, but obviously Pittsburgh's not going to do that. So there's just nothing really where I have a hard time imagining that the Mariners are going to be able to offer a prospect that is going to, fulfill a need for the Pirates to look their fan base in the eye and say, we traded the franchise player again for a guy who's 4 or 5 years away. You know what I mean? So maybe because O'Neal Cruz is there, maybe because Brian Hayes is there, who sucks, by the way, maybe because Brian Reynolds is locked in long-term, maybe they feel like we have enough going in the right direction that we can do this and just re-sign McCutchen next year. But if you're Andrew McCutchen, do you want to sign with the Pirates again after they've traded you for the second time? Because they could just do it again next year. So I don't know. I don't know. McCutchen is, he's not a great fit, obviously. Again, he's pretty much DH only. He's a right-handed bat. You really prefer a left-handed bat. And while he's having a good year, he hasn't been all that great the last few years. He's been fine, but he's essentially AJ Pollock, but Pollock has more versatility. So I don't know how much you're willing to give up if you're the Mariners. I don't think you're going to meet the probably inflated asking price of the Pirates, even if it is just for half a year. So I don't know. It's kind of a tough needle to thread.
So look, I get everything that you're saying, but if you're the Pirates, the smart baseball decision here is to take advantage of McCutchen's value, whatever that may be, and get something, get a long-term asset.
noted smart baseball organization, Pittsburgh Pirates.
I'm aware. But
Kind of a big hole in the logic there. Just saying.
They
gave Brian Hayes like $100 million. Go on.
Here we go with the Brian Hayes thing again. If they are open to it, I do think that there is an opportunity here for the Mariners. I think that there would be some interest from the Mariners, even though, like you said, that you would prefer this bat to be left-handed, that you would prefer that he has some sort of positional flexibility. But at a certain point, you just need a bat right now. Any bat, really, in my mind.
Right. Not at that point yet, but yeah, sure. Beggars can't be choosers.
And look, if let's say that they go all in on another pitcher this deadline, and that's their big addition of the summer, and
not going to happen, but okay.
You were literally the one pounding the table for a pitcher acquisition like 2 weeks ago. What are you talking about?
Yeah, and then Bryce Miller dominated the Braves.
Yeah, but really, that changed your mind? Really?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Wow. All right.
But what's the big pitcher acquisition that's out there this year?
Eduardo Rodriguez, or maybe just someone like you mentioned, like Alex Cobb.
We're going to talk. Oh, now all of a sudden Alex Cobb is a big addition. Interesting.
I'm not saying that that's necessarily a big addition, but look, if their biggest addition of the summer is a pitcher, maybe someone like McCutchen makes sense. Where, look, on the high end, I feel like he probably costs you Jonathan Clase, and then on the low end, a couple of lottery tickets. Right? Does that sound about right?
Yeah.
So, maybe that's something that makes sense. The thing that I've been seeing from Mariners fans is like, oh, this team needs another Carlos Santana. One, I don't necessarily agree with that, but why does your Carlos Santana have to be Carlos Santana again, or Eric Hosmer? Why can't it be an Andrew McCutchen? Why can't we dream a little bit bigger here? And not by much, but why can't we dream a little bit?
Eric Hosmer, just anything.
I know. You got your Key Brian Hayes one in here. I got my Eric Hosmer one in here. So let me have this. So
no,
of course. I don't know. I don't think that it's a great fit, really. I do love Kutch though. So if they acquired him, awesome. I'm doing backflips because Andrew McCutchen is sick, and if he's in a Mariners uniform, then I'm super happy about that. But I would prefer the Mariners to go out and look for someone that can actually play in the field, and someone that preferably hits from the left side of the plate.
Yeah, there's no like perfect fit. That's, to me, like the perfect fit for in terms of need and position and skill set and blah blah blah. It's Alex Verdugo, but we don't think Verdugo is likely to be available. I'm sure we'll talk about him at some point, but. You're just probably not going to find the guy who checks all those boxes, right? Line drive hitter, left-handed bat, can play multiple positions, high on base, doesn't strike out. Like, that's a lot to ask for in a midseason find. And McCutchen doesn't check a lot of those. He's not defensively versatile. Strikeouts aren't a huge issue for him. He's about league average, so that's a plus in his hand. But he's not left-handed, and I don't know how that bat is going to play at T-Mobile Park. And again, he's just so similar to AJ Pollock that, like, I wonder if the Mariners might not look at it and be like, look, let's save the asset that we're going to have to probably overpay in order to get Andrew McCutchen, and let's just spend that elsewhere and hope that Pollock turns it around. And there are some signs of that now. Kind of the interesting thing on Pollock is we haven't seen him in like a week. And
he hasn't played since the injury.
And there's a lefty on the mound today. Nestor Cortez, I believe, is pitching today. Right?
Yep. Correct.
We'll see.
By the way, folks, you can catch that game on the Mariners hometown broadcast with SiriusXM via the SXM app.
There you go. So we'll see if he's in the lineup today. That's pretty telling. But the Mariners don't have a ton of outfield options right now. Cade Marlowe hasn't played in a few days, and nobody really knows why.
Dylan Moore's had a setback.
Yep. Surprise. Sam Haggerty still stinks. Taylor Trammell, I mean, he's fun when he's hitting home runs, but if you're not going to do it 35 times, that profile is not going to work. So, McCutchen fits in some sense But I just think that there is a practicality issue here just because of how much the Pirates are probably going to overvalue him. And if you're the Mariners, you're not interested in like
Now,
why would you trade Jonathan Clase
sure,
for half a year of Andrew McCutchen?
sure.
You wouldn't.
Well, it's also all relative to what the cost of other bats around the league are as well, right? I mean, is that what you think the best value is at the time? Then sure, but we have no way of knowing that, and really, I can't imagine that would be the best value at any given point in time. Quickly, just going back to the Pirates for a second, though. When it comes to a franchise legend like Andrew McCutchen, yeah, you obviously want him around, and yeah, he's shown interest in signing an extension with you. But also, wouldn't you want to try and do right by him if you can give him an opportunity to compete in the postseason, maybe compete for a World Series? I mean, that's ultimately up to McCutchen, I would think. But
yeah, I mean, I don't know. Hey, by the way, do you remember what Andrew McCutchen was traded for?
I don't even remember who he was traded to be quite honest with you.
Traded to the Giants.
It was the Giants. Yeah.
For Brian Reynolds.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So
what you're saying is Jonathan Clase would turn into Brian Reynolds if they traded him.
Sure.
Traded him.
Yeah. Sure. I'm totally okay trading Jonathan Clase, though. I am.
Sure.
The hype on him is getting a little ridiculous, which might be good because maybe the Mariners can cash in on that. But like,
sure,
the dude is like a walking 1 for his last 8 with a massive home run and 5 strikeouts, and it's like, look at the home run. I mean, cool, but
so Taylor Trammell
over here, yeah, kind of, yeah. Honestly, faster, better base runner than Trammell, but yeah, pretty much the same thing offensively. But
gotcha.
We'll see. But yeah, Clase is probably the guy I'm going to try and fit into a lot of trades, just because I feel like he's one of the more replaceable prospects that's going to carry a lot of value.
So I'm going to ask you this at the end of the day, or at the end of all these trade a day segments. Yes or no, trading for Andrew McCutchen? Yeah or nay? Thumbs up, thumbs down, whatever.
Like,
just in theory, on paper, yeah.
Like, if the price is right, okay. If the Pirates want you to pay even 10 cents on the, or like 110 cents, they want you to pay $1.10 on the dollar for Andrew McCutchen to, help relieve their clubhouse issues, then they can go kick rocks. Like, I'm not.
No, Colby, simple yes or no answer, because context does not matter when we have these conversations.
Okay.
It's not important at all. Okay. I'll say maybe. And I'm the only one who gets to say maybe, not you.
Interesting.
Only I can.
I mean, hey, if they want Cade Marlowe, like,
sure,
I guess, but I think you should probably try and do a little better first. But we'll see.
Sure, we'll see. It's a fun idea in theory because it's Andrew McCutchen. Hopefully, he doesn't make any base running blunders like he did in the top of the 10th on Sunday in a Mariners uniform. But
it's a double agent already helping Seattle.
Right. All right, who should we do next? Let us know in the comments below.
It's not going to be Shohei Ohtani, if you're curious.
It's definitely going to be Shohei Ohtani. It's going to be Jose Ramirez. It's going to be Brian Reynolds. It's going to be all of them.
Oh. I'm going to say Julio Rodriguez for all of them.
And you know what? Since, we spent this whole offseason grading and dragging your trade ideas, grade and drag our trade ideas. Give us a grade on the 2080 scale down below. I'm sure Colby will love to read all of them.
I want you to know ahead of time, I do not respect any of your opinions on that matter.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to do it for our show. Thank you so much for joining us on the Locked On Mariners podcast. Colby Patnode, I'm Trident Gonzalez. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at LO_Mariners. You can follow me at Dane Gonzalez, CANE, GNZLZ, and Colby at CPAT11, that's CPAT11. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok as well over at Locked On Mariners. That's one word, Locked On Mariners. You can also find all that stuff in the description of this episode. Thank you again for making us your first listen. Again, you can catch the Mariners and the Yankees tonight on the Mariners hometown broadcast with SiriusXM via the SXM app. Have yourself a beautiful baseball day, and we'll see you tomorrow. Peace.